Hey, what is up, everybody, and welcome to Slasher Quest, the show where I go on my odyssey through the 1980s slasher movie catalog. We are on episode 3 now. Last week we talked about The Prowler. This week I'm going to be sticking with that early 1980s, and I figured with summer coming up here pretty quick that I will go with a summer-themed one, and there's really no shortage of them. Especially camp slashers. The most notorious probably being Friday the 13th. You can see some stuff behind me here. Um, but this time I thought I would talk about a very interesting one and a very big name, well known within the genre, and that is 1983's Sleepaway Camp. The reason why it's so talked about? Let's get into it. 1983's Sleepaway Camp. It is directed by Robert Hiltzig. We got the plot for this is Angela Baker, a shy, traumatized young girl, is sent to summer camp with her cousin. Shortly after their arrival, anyone with sinister or less than honorable intentions toward her get their comeuppance. This movie is like pretty well known, especially within like the slasher fandom group. Even just 80s horror in general. There's so many things in this that are just completely crazy. I'll get into that a little bit. There's This movie was like extremely low budget. And you can kind of see with some things, we got like the music at the beginning is just ridiculously loud. There's a lot of weird like ADR within this movie, like strange noises, obvious that some dialogue has been dubbed over, and just some head scratching moments too that will either leave you laughing or just completely confused. I say that, but at the same time, I love this movie. This movie is ridiculously fun. It's charming in a way because it was so low budget. It was Robert Hilton's like passion project, and he actually he dedicated the movie to his mom. He calls her a doer, and apparently he was a doer as well because he got this movie done on such a shoestring budget. A little bit of the backstory, we get like this father and his two kids out in the water. At the same time, there's like a couple campers like on a speedboat flying around. The girl desperately wants to drive it, and the boy finally gives in. They're not paying attention to where they're going, and then boom, they hit the father and his kids, and there's screaming and chaos and blood everywhere. It's like fast forward to today, where we get to meet this goofy lady who ends up being like the aunt of the two main characters, of Angela and Ricky, and they're getting ready to go to summer camp. I can't talk enough about this aunt and how ridiculous of an actress she is. It's like she was a stage actress and thought that those techniques and delivery and everything would just translate to film seamlessly. I'm not sure if she's a good actress or if she's the worst actress I've ever seen. It's kind of one of those things you have to see for yourself, but her line delivery is ridiculous. Like, oh, now I remember. And her voice just like fluctuates up and down, and she's just a very strange character. We get Angela, who is played by Felissa Rose, actually friend of Rock Video Rental. She actually answered a couple questions for us and gave us a shout out, and so big fan here. This is her first role, and she comes off like very shy. She kind of fits this role perfectly, and the inexperience with the acting fits the role perfectly. So soon after they arrive at camp, we get the bullies and the friends and all this kind of stuff. Things happen, and then it's like the kids keep getting taken off like one by one, and it's anybody who has beef with Angela or Ricky, so you're assuming it's probably one of them. We're kind of given the red herring of, oh, it's got to be Ricky throughout this, but that's not really where the twist of this movie is. But I guess we can get into some of the kills, because I mean that's the biggest moments of the movie. Not really a kill, but this one definitely needs to be mentioned because it's like a severe injury. There's this like pedophile cook named Artie, and he makes some like disgusting comments. Like when they're coming off a bus, he's standing there talking to this other cook who is actually played by James Earl Jones's father. So we get Darth Vader's father in this. So Luke, I am your grandfather, and I work at Sleepaway Camp. Artie's saying to him, it's like, oh, I call them baldies, and he's like, they're not too young for me, you're just too old, and everything. It's just disgusting, cringeworthy stuff. He tries to make a pass at Angela, and he gets his comeuppance. He's like putting these ears of corn, and he's boiling them in this enormous pot, like giant pot. The sucker must be about 4 feet tall. I didn't even know they made a pot that big, but apparently Artie's got one and he uses it to boil corn. He stands up on a chair and he's sprinkling some salt in there for whatever reason. And then suddenly we get the classic, hey, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be in here, but he doesn't mention name or like gender or anything. Basically it ends up with the person grabbing the chair out from Artie, pulling it, and he falls down, pulling the pot on top of himself and getting like basically boiled alive. Really cool special effect. We see like these blisters on his face, and they're just like festering and pulsating while he screams. So we get the owner of the camp. He's like trying to cover everything up in typical 80s movie fashion, and we just kind of brush over that. But then like the killings start happening. The first one we get is this kid named Kenny, who is on a canoe ride with this girl. I can't remember the girl's name. I mean, it wasn't like a super major character. But he's like trying to flirt with her in typical teenage boy fashion, where he just does stuff to annoy her and he thinks that he's funny and cute. He flips over the boat and she gets pissed off and takes off. But now Kenny's like under the boat, and he's singing this weird song like, hey, Bob, a ree Bob. And that always sticks with me because it's just ridiculous. Like, why was this thrown in here? Soon, like, we get a character that pops up in front of the camera, and, again with the, hey, what are you doing? The guys will be interested in knowing that you were here. Like, just let's try to cover up who it is this way. But he ends up getting drowned, and they find him the next day on the beach. He's got like a snake coming out of his mouth. Another awesome effect, because the prop corpse they have of Kenny is pretty realistic for such a low budget and like older movie. I was pretty impressed with it. The next kill we get kind of cracks me up. It makes me think of Nicolas Cage's Wicker Man, because this boy named Billy gets killed by bees. The whole time I'm watching it this time, I was like, not the bees, not the bees. He like goes into a bathroom stall to like take a dump, and someone props the door shut so he can't get out, and then they cut a hole in the screen behind him, and they drop in a bee's nest, and he ends up getting it like Macaulay Culkin in My Girl. He falls out and he's just got bees all over his face. He's got stings all over him, and that's how he meets his end. This whole time we got this character named Meg and a character named Judy that are two just like they're just complete bitches, let's just say. They bully Angela for not wanting to take a shower with everyone else, not swimming, not like partaking in things. And they even get mad at her for talking to a boy named Paul, who's really nice to Angela. So I'm not sure if like they're just jealous or whatnot. But at the same time too, like Meg is having this weird relationship with the owner of the camp, who looks just like a fish with hair. Like he's not an attractive guy. His name is Mel. So she's rushing off to go get a shower so she can have like this dinner date with Mel, and it's implied that they're probably going to get it on. Whether she's of age or not, I don't really know, but a lot of these kids in this movie are under the age of 18. It's not one of those 80s movies where you got 30-year-olds playing teenagers. Let's just say that. So while Meg is in a shower, she gets someone stabs like a long knife through the shower wall and into her back, and a slit like down her back in the shower. That one always confused me. Like, okay, it would probably hurt someone pretty bad, and I mean, if you hit them in like the spine and got like their spinal cord, yeah, it would kill them. But I don't know. She like fights for a little bit, so I'm really confused by that one. So now with Meg gone, the killer turns their attentions on Judy, like the main, for lack of a better term, bitch. And oh my gosh, the actress that plays Judy does such an amazing job. Like, you just hate that character. She is so irritating, so full of herself, and you just want to see her get offed. And boy, does she really get it. We get to see her in a room, and all of a sudden there's like someone at the door, and you can see like a shadowy figure. Well, on the VHS that I originally had, and I'm kicking myself for selling, you could just see like a silhouette of a person, and like you're assuming it's Angela because of the shape. Well, in the HD version now that I have on Blu-ray and that you can see on streaming, it's obvious that it's Ricky in a wig. Like, they did not account for higher quality resolution and the cleaning of the film. The murkiness has been kind of taken away, so you can definitely see that it's Ricky like in a wig, which is hilarious. But she ends up like fighting with the killer, and then she gets a curling iron inserted somewhere, I will say. It's kind of implied that it goes between her legs. You don't see it. You just see like the shadow of her like fighting against it up against the wall. You see the curling iron to go down, and then she like writhes in pain, and then her arms collapse. That's another one too. Like, would that kill someone? I mean, that undoubtedly would be extremely painful and cause severe injuries. But would it kill someone? Is what I wonder. Either way, cool and disgusting death for a slasher movie. After that, we get some off-screen kills where these people are going back to the camp because something's going on, and like, we see like all these young kids that were in sleeping bags like just hacked up with a machete. You just see like bloody machete marks like on the bags and everything. So that's kind of implied. Creepo Mel, the owner of the camp, ends up getting an arrow to the throat. That's kind of a cool effect. And I believe it was done with like a spring loaded prop on his chest, so it goes in the back and comes out the front, and you just kind of see it pop up. It's pretty cool. And now we get like the crazy ending to this movie, and let me tell you, if you haven't seen this movie before, stop this review and go watch it. I had the luck of seeing this movie without really knowing anything about it, much like people did in the early 80s. And let me tell you, it is probably one of the most impactful slasher movie endings of all time, if not movie endings of all time. So this whole time you're like, oh, what's obvious that Angela is the killer, after seeing all these people that wronged her get their comeuppance. It's a little too obvious that it might be Ricky. So you're like, it's definitely Angela. This movie is not going to surprise me whatsoever. There's no twist, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It is Angela. Angela stands up with the head of Paul, the boy who was nice to her, in her hands. That's not the twist. The twist is Angela is actually a boy. He's standing there, full male frontal nudity, just hanging onto this head, and a knife, and groaning with this disturbing like mouth agape look on her face. And it's one of those, it's like, oh my gosh, did I just watch that? We get like a little mini flashback of her crazy wackadoodle, great slash terrible acting aunt that Angela was a boy to begin with, and she was going to adopt her after the death of her father. But she already had a son who was Ricky, and she always wanted a girl, so they decided to name her Angela and force her to be a girl. I don't know, like this, the ending is completely batshit crazy, and I love it, but at the same time, it's kind of ridiculous. And we get like this fade out to green at the end that is just hilarious. Bad effect. But this is a movie that'll stick with you, and it's obvious because it did really well for how low of a budget it had, and it created two more sequels in the 80s off from it. Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, and Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland, which is awesomely bad. I love that movie as well. There's another movie called The Crying Game that came out a couple years later that kind of like took this ending, and it doesn't really get mentioned too much, and that one people talk about is like, oh, you know what, Sleepaway Camp kind of did that first. So it's kind of funny that this little tiny slasher movie that had such a small budget and poor production at most points and no name actors and all that kind of stuff ended up having this big impact on film. It just cracks me up. I got a couple interesting things about this movie. So at the beginning, we see the two kids with their dad. Well, one of them is actually Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore's brother. So most of this cast is like from the New Jersey area, and it's pretty obvious because they have like these thick Jersey accents, especially Situation's brother. I'll tell you. Some other things too that crack me up in this movie. There's a police officer that shows up one time after Kenny's death, and he's got like this full like brown Ron Burgundy mustache. But then he shows up later after Judy is killed, and he's got like this mustache that looks like it's made out of electrical tape stuck to his face because he showed up for Rick reshoots and he already shaved the mustache off, so they had to kind of just wing it. What I don't understand is why they zoomed in on it, and it looks even worse now with the HD. By far one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's obvious with this movie when they made it, it felt like a real camp like scene, because a camp experience, because it's all these kids that are under 18. They're together, they're playing baseball, they're like swimming and all this stuff, and it's really cool to see that. Even some of the side characters that don't really do too much, like Ronnie, the big muscle bound guy who's like the assistant to the owner. He's really cool and he seems like a genuine nice guy. We get another guy, I believe his name was Gino. He wears like a crop top t-shirt. He's another one of the guys who's like a counselor and is in charge of a lot of the younger kids. He's pretty cool as well. Just a really fun movie, and something that I would suggest like anybody watch, especially if you're a fan of slashers. I would definitely recommend this. As far as grade, like I say, I always go into my different categories. The grade for this one is relatively high because I enjoy it so much. My categories are that we get the special effects, the acting, the plot, the ending, the killer, the kills, and the replay value. For this, I gave the special effects a 7. While they're pretty good at times, some of the stuff is a little ridiculous. The acting I gave a 5 because, it's mostly actors who haven't really done anything else. The ones that do have experience are still kind of wooden, and then we get that wackadoodle aunt who is just ridiculously over the top. She's going for it. The plot, I give a 6. There's really nothing like groundbreaking about the plot, but the ending gets a perfect 10 for me because that caught me completely off guard. It's memorable, and it's the main thing that people talk about when you talk about this movie. The killer, I give a 6 because you knew it was Angela the whole time. You just didn't know she was a boy. The kills are a 7 because they're pretty creative and effective. But then, like I said, with a lot of them, is like, would that really kill someone? In this world, it does kill them, but they are pretty cool and imaginative. The replay value, I'm giving a 9. I've watched this movie plenty of times, and I don't know, I love this movie. There's still more that are the replay value is much higher, like Halloween. Halloween is like probably my favorite horror movie, so I couldn't mark this on the same level as that. So this all evens out to a 7.1 overall. So in conclusion, if you guys have never seen this movie and you've made it to the end here, and I ruined the ending for you, still just watch it because you're still just gonna appreciate it even more. If you've seen this numerous times, you probably feel the same way I do, because I don't think I've ever really met anybody that doesn't like this movie. So next time I'll be talking about another slasher movie. Haven't decided which one yet. Maybe I'll stick with the summer theme, maybe not. Maybe I'll go into something completely off the wall. But until then, as always, be kind and rewind.